All right, how's everyone doing today? Welcome to my channel. This here is a channel for educational purposes, and we check into great theories, concepts, and discoveries that you should be drooling over because they are profound, at least according to the people who spent their whole life putting these things together and never got any credit, never got paid. Um, we have a lot of those videos on this channel, but we also have other segments. This one is called Your Blind Side, where I try to help out the patriots, the flailing and pretty clueless patriots out there that can't seem to figure out the bigger picture, can't seem to recognize that there's a higher responsibility here that's needed, somehow think that they're going to advance into the next age, the age of Aquarius, the fifth dimension, or the golden age intact. They're ready to go. They're ready to go now. They're just waiting for the med beds. Um, you know, because they think that they're going to be able to eat their burgers and fries, um, and then just get on the med bed, you know, or do some GLP-1 or whatever, some, uh, something that they use to manage to maintain the crappy diet that they're on. It's not even that it's a crappy diet. Just they just haven't thought about it, because they're not capable of thinking about it because they're in a trance. Are most of them are still locked into a trance of, if I grew up with it, then it must be okay. Even though they have the experience of that not being true, of overturning a ton of false flags and hoaxes and psyops from the 20th century and 21st century that they at one time accepted as legit. Now they find out that it wasn't legit. Well, apply that same principle to the rest of your life. Okay, I'm going to read here from, oh, I guess it goes back a little further than this. I'm trying to, I've been going over James Valiant, and what's the other guy's name? Uh, can't remember his name. Anyway, their book Creating Christ, which has to do with where the origins of Christianity, and maybe we'll start right about here. Um, how could a symbol uh, so specifically derived from the pagan god Apollo and associated with pagan emperors who had just conquered Judea and destroyed the Jewish temple, become the most prominent symbol adopted by Christians in the city of Rome itself. And this is the anchor and dolphin symbolism that the Christians used for the first 250 years of their existence. The cross was almost uh, unheard of as a symbol for Christianity until the early fourth century, when Constantine um, put together a false flag to have his mother going down to Judea and finding the authentic cross there. And then it became this prominent symbol. But before that, they used a dolphin and anchor, which is found in a lot of the Christian burial sites and so on from that early period. And the Romans also used it. Uh, it's on a ton of different Roman coins. Christians were supposed to have regarded all things pagan as corrupt, and during this time were allegedly persecuted by imperial Roman authorities to such a degree that they had to disguise their symbols. Christians are said to have been willing to die rather than surrender to pagan worship in any form, especially any kind of emperor worship. So it is easy to understand why Emperor Titus would adopt the dolphin and anchor motif for himself. Emperor Titus, the second Flavian emperor from 79 to 81 AD. Other emperors had used similar images to associate themselves with Apollo. Ancient monarchs from the Hellenistic East used similar images for the same reason. The gods Apollo and Serapis, and also Asclepius, Apollo's son, also made an especially good fit for the Flavians. So this is the iconography that the Flavians used, especially on their coins, but and other also in their monuments and their buildings, their artwork, who billed themselves as healers who had arisen in the east, like solar deities, because the sun rises in the east. The Flavians arose in the east because their claim to fame was that they sacked Jerusalem. Jerusalem being east of Rome. So, and although it never became a religious symbol for Jews, their monarchs also used the anchor on their coins frequently enough. Um, so the anchor may have become a recognizable symbol for Jewish monarchy at this time. Um, and as we have seen, the fish became a representation of Jesus and a common symbol used in Christianity's earliest stories and literature, which would have been anathema for the Jews. So it may be argued these factors led to the Christians to independently come upon the combination of the two as an appropriate way to represent Christianity. The combined image was previously associated with Apollo, a healing god. Um, okay. However tempting this interpretation might be, however, it fails to reckon with the problems we have been considering. Only decades after the crucifixion, Christians in Rome must have already abandoned all Jewish inhibitions against violating the Ten Commandments' prohibition of graven images and Jewish laws forbidding any representation of the divine. As we have seen, if the earliest Christians were authentically pious Jews, they would never have combined the image of an anchor with any animal, and certainly not one associated with a pagan god or Roman emperor. But they did. Moreover, the pagan symbol they chose was the exact same symbol adopted by a Roman emperor on coins widely circulated throughout the empire. And that emperor's, Titus, his imperial cult, and his father Vespasian, his imperial cult was advertising him as the Jewish Messiah. And it even says that in Josephus. Josephus says that uh, Vespasian is the Jewish Messiah. Jews, not Christians, forbade graven images. It might be countered. In addition to kosher diet and circumcision, this appears to have been another aspect of Mosaic law that had been abandoned by Pauline Christians. But this still left Christians free to choose whatever symbols they wished. So why are Christians using readily identified imperial pagan symbols despite their alleged hostility to and persecution by the Roman government? Why should Jesus himself have so many characteristics in common with the pagan deity? A resurrected, suffering Savior, healing man God. Indeed, why should he share so many historical parallels with the Roman emperors Vespasian and Titus? Um, he has very similar healing um, miracles to Vespasian And his military campaign is, or Titus's military campaign was identical to Jesus's ministry, uh, episode by episode by episode by episode, as you go through Josephus and as you go through the book of Luke. So how could they end up using the same symbol unless it was deliberate? Um, if they feared persecution by the Roman state, why didn't the earliest Christians simply choose a unique but innocuous non-pagan symbol that did not directly reference imperial Rome? Even if it were just a cynical disguise for Roman eyes, why would Christians go so far as to mark it conspicuously on the graves of their loved ones? And the answer is because the Romans are the ones who created Christianity in Rome. And the Christians that were buried were pagan Romans who converted to Christianity following Titus and Vespasian. It's a Roman imperial cult. And, you know, it was a psychological operation against the Jews in order to mellow them out. But it also served to unify as a unifying religion or universal religion, Catholic, to unify the whole empire, all of the plebes in the empire. And of course, you know, the Flavians knew it was a psyop, but they just pretended. And, they were gods themselves. So, they were just trying to expand their godship. But, Titus and Vespasian were both legally deified after their deaths. So Titus was literally the son of God according to Roman law, and they built temples and had bishops, officiating their cult. Many scholars have observed similarities between Jesus and the gods of the so-called pagan mystery cults, as we have noted. Now, that similarity can also be seen in their shared use of symbols. But if paganism had been anathema to the first Christians, if Christianity's roots are really Jewish, why are such pagan symbols the first to appear in Christian history? Observe that the Emperor Titus himself took his dolphin and angler symbol from Seleucus, the very same precedent cited by his possible relative Titus Flavius Clement of Alexandria, as an appropriate source for Christian use of the symbol. Or maybe this is Clement of Rome, first century. The Emperor Titus and the I think it's the early third century, Clement of Alexandria. Um, yeah, the Emperor Titus and later Christian Titus Flavius Clemens of Alexandria derived this symbol from the same source. And we know that also Vespasian was in Alexandria, and Alexandria is the place where Emperor Ptolemy, in the 3rd century BC or thereabouts, um, kind of created the first state-crafted religion, that of Serapis, which was kind of like a syncretism between Osiris and Osiris's bull and some of the pagan gods, especially Apollo. And you know, it it was, I think, just like common knowledge that this was created by the state, by the Ptolemy, and Ptolemy was one of the generals of Alexander the Great. And so he is going to be revered for his level of strategy and copied here by the Caesars. So, you know, the evidence is just unending that Christianity is a psyop and it was created by the Romans. And the patriots have got to wake up to this. The 17th letter and the commander in chief know what the score is. They know who created Christianity. They're just waiting for you to find out. And they're probably going to just be doing beating around the bush until you do with these, this probably why this is taken for 9 years is because they can see that the Patriots are not ready. So, you know, red pill yourself and get ready because, we don't have all day. All right, like, share, subscribe, comment, contribute. Come back tomorrow for another episode of Your Blind Side. Have a wonderful day.